So to spoil the conclusion of this review right at the start, the story I'm reviewing today is freaking amazing. I cannot recommend it highly enough to absolutely everyone who's watching this video. It's not perfect, not even close, but when it shines, it's absolutely blinding. I have never cried as much reading a story as when I read this, and I laughed my head off plenty of times too. Now that I've finished it, it feels like there's a gaping hole in my chest, just knowing that there's no more to read. I have yet to decide if this is my favorite visual novel of all time, but it's sure as hell up there. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Summer Pockets. In Summer Pockets, we follow Hairi, a city slicker high schooler who's come to the rural island of Torishirojima for summer break. In theory, he's there to help his aunt sort a shed of his grandmother's old things after she passed away. In practice, in most routes, his aunt never lets him so much as touch the shed, so he ends up goofing off, exploring the island, befriending the locals, and most importantly, developing relationships with the four main heroines. As per usual for this type of game, at a certain point, the choices you make will lead Hairi to become intertwined with the problems of one of the lead heroines, and then you get to watch him resolve said heroine's problems and develop a romantic relationship with them. This may all sound pretty standard, but there's an aspect of the supernatural to the story too. There's a fair amount of mystery and lore surrounding Torishirojima, and each of the character routes delves into one aspect of that, building towards the true route, which uses all the elements uncovered in the previous routes. Obviously, this more supernatural element of the story is one of its more interesting parts, but it would also be super spoilery to discuss any of it. Suffice to say that there is more to the story than the comedy slice of life stuff you get in the common route, and the drama and romance you would expect in the character routes. Well, Hairi is less boring than the protagonists in Key's past couple works, but he still doesn't get much more developed than being a generally nice, generally sensible guy, so let's talk about the rest of the cast. We'll start with Tenzin and Ryochi, the two male characters. Both of them are obviously intended for comic relief. Tenzin is a table tennis nut, and Ryochi is a serial stripper, and the slapstick parts of their nature are played pretty well. That being said, unlike many comic relief characters, they're not complete idiots, and are well enough written that they at least approach the point where I think, hey, someone in the real world might come close to acting like that. They are pretty chill dudes who show some genuine emotional depth, and their friendship with the other Islander teens is sickeningly sweet and wholesome. Next, let's talk about the fanservice characters, because this story has both one of the best and worst examples I've seen. Ao is an example of how to do fanservice right. She's slightly perverted, and she occasionally lets her inner thoughts slip. Her banter with the main character during those moments is comedy gold, so while I do appreciate the show of her assets, she's also a great source of humor. Oh, and she's conscientious, caring, and tender. Clearly best girl. Contrasting with her, we have Shizuku, as an example of how not to do fan service. Yes, she is very well endowed, but something about her just rubbed me the wrong way. I wonder what it could be. Oh, I know, maybe it's that she spends far too much time talking about boobies. Her boobies, other people's boobies, how to grow them, how she can't run with them. Look, I really don't care. Excess discussion of anything, no matter how titillating it might be, is annoying. And the way Shizuku discusses breasts is just inane. I'm straight, but honestly I got more enjoyment out of seeing Ryochi strip than Shizuku talk about boobies. Anyways, to round out the rest of the cast, we have Tsumugi as Key's obligatory cute girl with a vocal tick, Miki, the brutal enforcer of the island's moral code wielding Hydro Gladiator Kai, aka a short girl with a water gun, Momei, the eccentric let's go on an adventure type, and Shiroha, the very definition of a kudere, and a very lovable one at that. While I love all the characters, the Islander team of Tenzin, Ryochi, Miki, and Ao are easily my favorites, showing up in all the routes and just being supportive, wonderful people throughout the story. Reading the sections therein just makes me feel happy. So, what makes Summer Pockets so great? Well, do you like crying? This story is very good at making you cry. Tears of sadness, tears of happiness, all that jazz. It spares no effort in making sure salty water is flowing regularly out of your eyes. As I'm writing this script, it's been a few days since I've finished reading Summer Pockets, and I still feel emotionally drained. Aside from all the feels, I'd also like to give Summer Pockets a hell of a lot of credit for conveying what would normally be a pretty cheesy message in a really convincing manner. Pretty much, it tries to convey, when times are good, enjoy every last moment of it. When they're bad, look to the future rather than reminiscing on the past. This sounds like the type of vaguely obnoxious advice that a life coach or motivational speaker would give. It would normally flow through one of my ears and out the other, while leaving no impact on my brain. And that being said, through the events of the story, the writers managed to very clearly demonstrate why you should live in that manner, and while it may be a bit overdramatic, they make the point very effectively. Then, onto some more minor things I liked. Hey, the pacing's fully decent. My biggest complaint with most VNs is that they take far too much time to get into. That was not the issue here. Getting to the character roots in Summer Pockets is relatively quick, and the character roots are freaking addictive. Once you get to them, the issue becomes putting the VN down, and I definitely lost a bit of sleep while I was reading this. Finally, Summer Pockets has a much better explanation of, shall we say, magic elements than any of Key's other works, with the exception of Rewrite. As a result, it avoids any of the more bizarre or Deus Ex Machina elements that feature prominently in the endings of Air, Clannad, and Little Busters. It may not be a big deal for some people, but I really liked having a solid explanation of those types of things. If you've read any of Key's previous works, then some parts of Summer Pockets are going to feel awfully familiar. Certain story beats have a striking resemblance to what Key's done in previous works, and as a result, certain plot points can be a little too predictable. There isn't anything that's completely cut and paste, and it does refine the ideas it steals, but it doesn't feel nearly as original as some of their previous works did. Ryukishi07, the writer of Higurashi and Yumineko, has commented that Key's secret to evoking emotion was how their stories would start with ordinary, enjoyable days, but then a sudden occurrence would happen, leading the players to cry due to the shock value. That formula still works here, but possibly because Key has used it so much, the sudden occurrences are no longer quite as shocking. All that aside, my only other complaint is that I would have liked epilogues for the true root and a couple of the character roots. Thematically, the endings work great, but I still want to know what happens after. And to avoid spoilers, I'll leave it at that. If you've never read a Key visual novel before, then Summer Pockets is the perfect entry point into their crying kingdom. Its solid pacing makes it far more accessible than some of Key's previous works, while still sending you through every loop of the emotional roller coaster Key's works are known for. For the rest of you, well, you know what to expect of Summer Pockets given the pedigree of the team behind it, and it doesn't disappoint. I can honestly say that I truly loved reading Summer Pockets, and I think you will too. For those of you who haven't read Summer Pockets yet, thanks for watching the video. Now, go buy it and start reading it. For those of you who have read it, this last part of the video is a discussion of everything that I couldn't talk about without spoilers. So there's a couple of things that just bugged me about Summer Pockets that I couldn't talk about earlier. Let's dive in, shall we? First, can I just ask why Key just assumes that as soon as the mother is out of the picture, the dad will always be deadbeat? They did it twice in Clannad with Tomoya's dad and then Tomoya, and now they're doing it again in Summer Pockets with Hairi. Seriously, does Jun Maeda or one of the other writers at Key have serious daddy issues that they still need to deal with? At least in Clannad, they went in and addressed the relationship issues. In Summer Pockets though, it's just Yumi telling Hairi, yeah, you kind of neglect me in the future, and the reader's thinking, damn, future Hairi is kind of a dick. That was one section in the story that didn't quite work as well as it could have. Another would be the whole thing where it's implied that Shiroha's mother sacrificed herself to save her daughter from the family curse. I can't help but to think it would have been far easier to not commit suicide, and then A. explain in detail why the family's power is a curse to Shiroha, B. just stick around to be a good mother to Shiroha so she enjoys her summer, and C. just don't let her anywhere near the mystic butterfly tree. I mean, Yumi more or less saved Shiroha by being a surrogate mother for her. I don't know why her actual mother couldn't have done that. Maybe there's something I was missing from that section, and if someone wants to explain what I missed, I'm all ears. Finally, as I alluded to earlier, I really think both the true ending and Kamome's route could have used an epilogue. In Kamome's case, because her showing up at the end made little to no sense, and more context was needed. And in the true ending's case, because I would have liked to see things go beyond just a potential restart of the Hari-Shiroha relationship. In all seriousness, if this story could just get a proper epilogue to the true route, Summer Pockets would become my favorite key VN of all time. Maybe we'll get something to that effect in Reflection Blue, the upgraded version of this game, should it get a Western release. I can only hope. Anyways, for all of you who stuck around to the end of this video, thank you again for listening. Cheers!